I thought I knew what danger sounded like. I thought it would be loud, screaming, breaking glass, violence you could see coming from a mile away. I never imagined it would sound like my 8-year-old daughter's whisper on a Sunday afternoon. Phone call, "Mom, you need to get out, now." It was September 15th, 2023. The kind of perfect autumn day in Denver that makes you believe everything might actually work out. Golden leaves dancing outside the windows of my childhood home in Lakewood, the smell of my mother's famous apple cinnamon coffee cake filling the air, and the gentle hum of family conversation that I'd been desperately hoping meant we were finally healing. My parents, Robert and Linda Martinez, had been trying so hard to make things normal since I'd moved back home with my daughter Emma 6 months earlier. Dad was in his favorite recliner, telling stories about his construction days while Mom bustled around the kitchen, adjusting flowers that didn't need adjusting. My younger sister Jessica sat curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone, and occasionally chiming in with comments about her latest real estate deals. Everything felt safe, ordinary, like maybe we could actually rebuild what had been broken when I'd fled my marriage to David Thompson, a man whose charm had slowly curdled into something that made Emma flinch at sudden movements and me sleep with one eye open. I'd been grateful when my parents offered us their spare room in their sprawling ranch house. Grateful for the stability, for the help with Emma, for what felt like unconditional love when I needed it most. I was finally working again, a flexible marketing job that let me be present for Emma while we both healed from the wreckage of my marriage. That afternoon, I was half listening to Dad's story about installing marble countertops in some millionaire's mansion when my phone buzzed. Emma's contact photo, her gap-toothed grin from last Christmas, lit up my screen. Strange. She was just upstairs in her room, supposedly reading. "Hey, sweetheart, what's—" "Mom." Her voice was barely audible, strained in a way that made my blood turn to ice. "You need to get out, right now." The world stopped, not slowed down, stopped. The laughter in the living room became background static. My mother's humming faded to nothing. All I could hear was my daughter's terrified whisper and the sound of my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. "Emma, what's wrong? What happened?" "Just, please, get out of the house, get in your car and drive away. I'll meet you outside." I stood, up so fast my chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Mom looked up from her coffee cake, eyebrows raised in that way that always made me feel like I was 12 again and in trouble for something I didn't understand. "Everything okay, honey?" she asked, but her voice sounded distant, like she was speaking through water. I nodded automatically, my body moving on pure instinct. "Just, Emma needs me for something. I'll be right back." Lies. I was already lying, and I didn't even know why. I walked to the front door like I was sleepwalking, grabbed my keys from the hook, and stepped out into that perfect autumn afternoon. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of burning leaves from someone's yard down the street. Everything looked exactly the same as it had 30 seconds ago, but something fundamental had shifted. The universe had tilted, and I was free-falling. Emma appeared from around the side of the house, clutching her purple backpack, the one with the unicorn patches she'd sewn on herself. Her face was pale, her dark eyes wide with something I'd never seen there before. Not just fear, knowledge, the kind of terrible knowledge that changes everything. "Get in the car, Mom, please." I unlocked my Honda Civic with shaking hands. We climbed in, and I sat there for a moment, staring at the house I'd grown up in, the place that was supposed to be our sanctuary. "Where do you want to go?" I asked, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. "Anywhere that's not here. If you're already hooked by this story of betrayal and survival, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you're going to want to follow this journey to the very end." Now let me tell you what my daughter had discovered. I drove aimlessly through the familiar streets of Lakewood, past the elementary school where I'd first learned that the world could be cruel, past the park where Emma had taken her first steps, past the grocery store where I'd bumped into David just 3 months ago and felt my chest tighten with panic. We ended up in the parking lot of a closed furniture store, sitting under a flickering streetlight that had come on too early, as if sensing that darkness was coming whether the sun had set or not. "Emma," I said gently, turning to face my daughter, "I need you to tell me what happened. What made you so scared?" She was quiet for so long, I wondered if she'd changed her mind about talking. Then she opened that purple backpack and pulled out her tablet, the one my parents had bought her for her birthday last month, the one she used for schoolwork and games. "I wasn't trying to spy," she said, her voice small but steady. "I swear, Mom, I was just trying to connect to the Wi-Fi because mine was being weird, and I accidentally connected to Grandma's laptop instead. You know how sometimes the screen sharing thing pops up?" I nodded, my stomach already starting to twist. I saw her email. She had it open. She was typing to someone. Emma's hands were shaking as she navigated to her tablet's recently viewed files. I took a screenshot because I didn't understand what I was reading, but I knew it was bad. She turned the screen toward me and my world imploded. The email was addressed to David, my ex-husband. The man I'd spent 2 years in court trying to keep away from Emma. The man who'd thrown a wine glass at the wall inches from our daughter's head during his last supervised visit. "David, I know this might come as a surprise, but Linda and I have been watching Sarah closely since she moved back in, and we're concerned, very concerned. She's not the same stable person she used to be. The divorce has changed her, made her paranoid and emotional in ways that can't be healthy for Emma. We think you deserve another chance at custody. Emma needs stability, and frankly, Sarah's current situation isn't providing that. She's barely working, still living in our spare room at 32 years old, and we've noticed some concerning behaviors. If you're willing to pursue custody again, we'd be happy to testify on your behalf. We have documentation of her instability, and with our testimony about her current living situation and financial dependence, we believe you'd have a strong case. We love Emma, and we want what's best for her. We think that might be with you. Please, let us know your thoughts. Best regards, Robert Martinez." The words blurred together as I read them again and again. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the tablet. "There's more," Emma whispered. She swiped to show me another screenshot. An email thread between my parents and someone named Patricia Winters, a name I recognized as David's lawyer. "Patricia, thank you for the consultation. We understand the process now. We're prepared to testify that Sarah has been exhibiting erratic behavior since moving back home. We can document instances of emotional instability, her inability to maintain steady employment, and her continued dependence on us for housing and financial support. We're also prepared to discuss her tendency toward paranoia regarding David's past behavior. We believe she's alienating Emma from her father based on exaggerated claims about his character. The retainer you mentioned is acceptable. We'll wire the funds tomorrow. Linda Martinez." "Mom?" Emma's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Mom, are you okay?" I wasn't okay. I was drowning. I was sitting in a furniture store parking lot, discovering that my own parents, the people who had raised me, who had comforted me through nightmares and heartbreaks, who had walked me down the aisle at my wedding, were actively working to destroy my life. "How long have you known about this?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "Since Thursday. I've been trying to figure out what to do. I heard them talking on the phone yesterday when they thought I was napping. Grandma said something about how Sarah will thank them someday when Emma's in a stable home with a real father." I looked at my 8-year-old daughter, this fierce, intelligent little person who had been protecting both of us, and felt something break inside my chest. Not my heart, something deeper, the part of me that still believed family meant safety. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered. "I'm sorry they're mean to you." I pulled her into my arms, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo and the vanilla lotion she'd started wearing because it made her feel grown up. You have nothing to be sorry for, I said fiercely. Nothing. You're the bravest person I know. But as I held her, my mind was racing. The emails were dated over the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks of them looking me in the eye, sharing meals, asking about my day, while secretly building a case to take Emma away from me. 3 weeks of betrayal disguised as love. I thought about David's smug smile in the grocery store. The way he'd said, "See you soon, Sarah." I'd thought he was just being his usual creepy self. Now I realized it was a promise. "What do we do now?" Emma asked. I looked at the house in the distance, warm light glowing from its windows, looking for all the world like a place where a happy family lived. A lie wrapped in golden light and apple cinnamon coffee cake. "Now we fight back," I said. I couldn't go back to that house. Not yet. Not until I had a plan. So instead of driving home to Lakewood, I drove downtown to the one place I knew I could think clearly. My best friend, Marcus Rodriguez's apartment in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. Marcus and I had been friends since college. He was the kind of person who never asked questions when you showed up at his door with red eyes and a child who needed somewhere safe to think. He worked as a freelance graphic designer, which meant his apartment was always chaotic with art supplies and half-finished projects, but it was also always open to people who needed sanctuary. He took one look at Emma and me standing in his hallway and stepped aside. "Coffee or something stronger?" he asked. "Coffee for me, hot chocolate for her, and a plan to take down my parents." Marcus didn't even blink. "I'll put on a pot." While Emma curled up on his couch with his ancient tabby cat, Winston, I showed Marcus the screenshots. I watched his expression change from confusion to horror to a cold, focused anger that I'd only seen a few times in our 15-year friendship. "Jesus, Sarah, your own parents." "I know. This is next-level betrayal. This is scorched earth warfare." "I know." He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the emails. "Okay, first question, what do they gain from this?" I'd been thinking about that during the drive. Money. It always comes back to money with them. When I was married to David, I was their golden child. I paid for their vacations, their home renovations, their car repairs. Mom's entire social media presence was built on the lifestyle I funded. When I left David and had to take a lower-paying job, that all stopped. Marcus nodded grimly. "And David's loaded." "Exactly. He's a successful orthopedic surgeon. If Emma lived with him, he'd probably be grateful enough to my parents to resume the financial support I used to provide. Plus, they wouldn't have the burden of housing us anymore. So they get their lifestyle back and get rid of what they see as a problem. Efficient." Marcus's voice was flat with disgust. "What's your legal situation like? How solid is your custody arrangement?" This was the part that made my stomach clench. "Not as solid as I'd like. The original custody agreement gives me primary custody, but David gets supervised visits twice a month. The supervision requirement expires in 6 months unless there's cause to extend it. With my parents testifying that I'm unstable and that David's actually a great father who's been unfairly maligned, they could get the supervision dropped and potentially push for a custody revision, especially with me living in my childhood bedroom, barely making ends meet on a part-time income." Emma looked up from where she was petting Winston. "Are they really going to try to make me live with Daddy?" The casual way she said it, like she was asking about what was for dinner, broke my heart. She shouldn't have to worry about this. She should be thinking about third-grade math homework and whether she wanted to be a veterinarian or a dragon trainer when she grew up. "Not if I have anything to say about it," I told her firmly. Marcus leaned forward, going into planning mode. "Okay, first priority is documentation. Those emails are gold, but we need more. Can you get back into your mom's laptop?" "Maybe. She's not very tech-savvy. She probably doesn't even know you can see when someone else accesses your screen." "Good. We need to document everything. Every email, every payment to David's lawyer, every conversation they have about this plan. If we can prove they're actively conspiring to commit fraud..." "Fraud?" Think about it. They're planning to lie under oath about your mental state and parenting ability. They're taking money from someone with a financial interest in the outcome of a custody case and planning to provide testimony that they know is false. That's conspiracy to commit perjury and possibly witness tampering. For the first time since I'd seen those emails, I felt a spark of hope. You really think we can stop this? I think we can do more than stop it. I think we can make sure they never get the chance to hurt you or Emma again. He was already pulling out his laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard. I have a friend who's a private investigator. She specializes in family court cases, and I know a lawyer who handles custody disputes. She's tough as nails, and she doesn't lose. As Marcus made phone calls and Emma dozed against Winston's furry side, I stared out the window at the Denver skyline and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Powerful, not helpless, not at the mercy of other people's decisions about my life and my daughter's future. For the first time since my marriage had fallen apart, I wasn't running from something. I was running toward it. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Sarah, where did you go? Dinner's almost ready. Emma must be hungry." I stared at the message for a long time. The casual concern, the maternal worry, the complete absence of any awareness that their world was about to come crashing down around them. I typed back, "We're fine. Be home later." Marcus looked up from his call. "You're not actually going back there tonight, are you?" "I have to. If I don't, they'll know something's wrong. I need time to gather evidence before they realize Emma found those emails." "Sarah, that's dangerous. If they're desperate enough to frame you for custody fraud, what makes you think they won't escalate if they feel cornered?" I looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. "Because I'm not the same person I was when I married David. I'm not the same person I was when I moved back home with my tail between my legs. They think they're dealing with the broken woman who fled her marriage. They're about to meet the woman who's going to fight for her daughter." Marcus smiled grimly. God help them. God help them indeed. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal while systematically gathering evidence of my parents' betrayal. I had to smile at breakfast, help Mom with her grocery shopping, and listen to Dad's stories about work, all while knowing they were actively plotting to destroy my life. But Emma and I had become a team of spies operating in enemy territory. She would create distractions, asking Grandma to help her with homework, or getting Grandpa to show her how to change a tire in the garage, while I used those precious minutes to access my mother's laptop and phone. What I found made those initial emails look like love letters. There were dozens of messages between my parents and David, dating back almost to the day I'd moved back home. They hadn't just decided to betray me, they'd been planning it from the beginning. David, she's already showing signs of instability. Living in her childhood bedroom at 32, can barely hold down a job, constantly anxious about money. This won't be hard to document. Robert, the key will be presenting it as concerned grandparents who love Emma and just want stability for her. We're not the vindictive ex-in-laws, we're the responsible adults who see what's really best for our granddaughter. Linda, I've been documenting every instance of Sarah's concerning behavior since she moved in. Her inability to maintain steady employment, her paranoid comments about you, her emotional outbursts when Emma mentions missing her father. Patricia says this kind of evidence is exactly what family court judges look for. Robert, but the worst. Discovery came when I found a folder on Mom's desktop labeled Emma Transition Plan. It contained detailed strategies for gradually shifting Emma's loyalty away from me and toward David. They'd been working to undermine my relationship with my daughter for months, in ways so subtle I'd barely noticed them. They'd been telling Emma that I seemed tired and stressed, and that she shouldn't bother Mommy with too many questions. They'd been making comments about how much fun she'd have living in David's big house with a pool. They'd been showing her pictures of the private school David could afford to send her to, the dance classes, the summer camps. They'd been grooming my own daughter to prefer a life without me in it. The evidence folder on my laptop grew larger each day. Screenshots, photos of printed emails, recordings I made on my phone when they thought I couldn't hear their conversations. Marcus's private investigator friend, Carmen Santos, had taught me how to document everything properly so it would hold up in court. The key is establishing a clear pattern of conspiracy and fraud, Carmen explained during a clandestine meeting at a coffee shop in downtown Denver. We need to show that this wasn't just concerned grandparents making a difficult decision. This was calculated, deliberate, and motivated by personal gain. She'd already started investigating the financial aspects of my parents' plan. The payment to David's lawyer came from a joint account your parents opened specifically for this purpose. They liquidated one of their retirement funds to pay the retainer. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. They've been saving up to destroy you. The level of planning, the cold calculation of it all, was almost worse than the betrayal itself. This wasn't a family conflict that had gotten out of hand. This was a business transaction with my daughter as the commodity being sold. But Carmen had found something else, something that would change everything. Your ex-husband isn't just grateful for your parents' help, she said, sliding a manila folder across the table. He's paying them for it. The bank records inside showed regular transfers from David's account to my parents' account, starting the month after I'd moved back home. $5,000 a month, every month, deposited with memo lines like consulting fee and family services. He's been paying them a retainer fee this entire time, Carmen continued. This isn't just custody fraud, it's a paid conspiracy. Your parents are literally on David's payroll to destroy your custody case. I stared at the bank records, feeling sick. He's been planning this since the beginning. Even before the beginning. These payments started before you even moved back home. He was already recruiting your parents to his side while you were still trying to finalize your divorce. The scope of the betrayal was breathtaking. While I'd been fighting for my life in divorce court, David had been cultivating my own parents as weapons to use against me later. While I'd been grateful for their support and hospitality, they'd been collecting payment for services rendered in the destruction of my family. There's more, Carmen said quietly. The private school applications, the summer camp registrations, the dance studio enrollment. David's been setting all of that up. He's been building a case that he can provide Emma with a better life, and your parents have been helping him by documenting all the ways you supposedly can't. I thought about all the times my mother had casually mentioned how expensive Emma's current school was, how limited her opportunities were with my reduced income, how much more David could provide for her. I'd thought she was just pointing out realities. She'd been building a legal case. What's our next move? I asked. Carmen smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't a sympathetic smile. It was predatory. We spring the trap. The confrontation came sooner than I'd planned, triggered by something I should have anticipated, but somehow didn't see coming. Emma had been holding it together remarkably well, but she was still 8 years old, and 8-year-olds aren't built to carry the weight of adult secrets. On Thursday evening, while we were having dinner at the dining room table that had hosted 1,000 family meals, she finally cracked. My mother was going on about her book club's latest selection, some romance novel about second chances and family forgiveness. Dad was making his usual comments about the portions being too small. Jessica was texting someone while mechanically eating Mom's famous meatloaf. Everything was so aggressively normal that it felt like performance art. "Grandma," Emma said suddenly, her voice cutting through the dinner conversation like a knife. "Why do you want me to live with Daddy instead of Mommy?" The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Dad's chewing slowed to a stop. Jessica looked up from her phone for the first time all evening. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Mom asked, her voice careful and controlled. "I know about the emails," Emma said, her 8-year-old directness cutting through every adult pretense in the room. "I know you're trying to take me away from Mommy and give me to Daddy. I know he's paying you money to do it." I watched my parents' faces cycle through a series of expressions: confusion, realization, panic, and finally, something that looked almost like relief. The pretense was over. The masks could come off. "Emma," my father said slowly, "you're too young to understand." "I understand that you lied to us," Emma interrupted, her voice getting stronger. "I understand that you took money from the man who used to hurt Mommy. I understand that you want to send me away so you can get more money." My mother's face had gone pale, but her voice was steady. "Sarah, what has she been looking at? What have you been telling her?" "I didn't tell her anything," I said calmly. "She found your emails on her own. She's been living in this house for 6 months, watching you plan to destroy her family. She figured it out because she's smart, not because I coached her." The dam burst. "How dare you spy on us?" Mom snapped, her careful composure cracking. "How dare you turn our granddaughter into some kind of little detective against her own family?" "Her own family?" I stood up, feeling the calm I'd maintained for days finally giving way to fury. "Her own family is trying to sell her to her abusive father for $5,000 a month." "David is not abusive," Dad said firmly. "He's a successful doctor who can provide for Emma in ways you clearly can't. Look at yourself, Sarah. You're 32 years old, living in your childhood bedroom, working part-time, completely dependent on us for everything. Is this the stable home you want Emma to grow up in? More stable than one where her own grandparents conspire to commit perjury for money?" Jessica finally put down her phone. "Wait, what's going on? What emails?" I pulled out my laptop and turned, the screen toward her, showing her the email thread between our parents and David's lawyer. I watched her face change as she read, watched her realize what our parents had been planning. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. "Mom, Dad, this is insane. You were going to lie in court?" "We weren't going to lie," Mom said defensively. "We were going to tell the truth about Sarah's instability and Emma's needs." "You were going to tell paid lies," I corrected. "You were going to commit perjury for money, and you were going to use Emma as a weapon to do it." "Everything we were prepared to say is true," Dad insisted. "You can't hold down a steady job. You can't afford to live on your own. You're paranoid about David, filling Emma's head with stories about how dangerous he is." He threw a wine glass at the wall while Emma was in the room, I said quietly. "That's not paranoia. That's not a story. That's what happened." "People make mistakes when they're under stress," Mom said. "That doesn't make him an unfit father. But your inability to move on, to co-parent effectively, to provide Emma with stability. You want to know what instability looks like?" I interrupted. "Instability is finding out that your own parents have been secretly working with your abusive ex-husband for months. Instability is discovering that the people who raised you think so little of you that they'd destroy your family for vacation money." "This isn't about money," Dad said angrily. "This is about what's best for Emma." "Then why is David paying you?" I asked. "If this is about Emma's welfare, why are there regular transfers from his account to yours? Why did you liquidate your retirement fund to pay his lawyer's retainer fee?" The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. They hadn't realized I'd found the financial records. They'd thought they'd been careful enough to hide the money trail. "How did you—" Mom started, then stopped herself. "I hired a private investigator," I said calmly. "Because when your own parents start acting like strangers, you investigate. And what I found is that you've been on David's payroll since the month after I moved back home. You've been documenting my concerning behavior like paid consultants. You've been building a custody case against me like it's your job, because it literally is your job. He's paying you to do it." Emma had been listening to all of this with the kind of focused attention kids reserve for moments when the adult world is finally being honest. Now she looked at her grandparents with something I'd never seen in her expression before: disappointment. "Why don't you want me to stay with Mommy?" she asked quietly. "Don't you love us?" And that simple question asked In my daughter's clear, honest voice, finally broke something in the room that couldn't be repaired. The legal proceedings that followed were swift and devastating. When you have documented evidence of conspiracy, fraud, and paid perjury, the justice system moves with surprising efficiency. Carmen Santos's investigation had uncovered not just the emails and financial records, but a paper trail that showed months of planning and coordination between David and my parents. David's lawyer, Patricia Winters, tried to claim that my parents had acted independently, but the evidence was overwhelming. The payments, the coordinated messaging, the synchronized timing of their testimony preparation, it all painted a clear picture of conspiracy to commit fraud. David's custody petition was not only denied, but his existing visitation rights were suspended pending a criminal investigation. My parents faced charges for conspiracy to commit perjury and fraud. Patricia Winters was censured by the state bar and faced her own legal troubles for knowingly participating in witness tampering. But the legal victories, satisfying as they were, weren't the most important part of what happened next. The most important part was watching Emma heal. Marcus had offered us his spare room while I looked for our own place, but it turned out I didn't need to look very hard. The marketing firm I'd been working for part-time offered me a full-time position with a salary that would allow us to afford our own apartment. The recommendation came from their biggest client, a construction company owned by someone who'd heard about my situation through the legal grapevine and wanted to help. Sometimes, Marcus said while helping us move into our new 2-bedroom apartment in the Highlands neighborhood, the universe decides to balance the scales. The apartment wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Emma got to pick the paint color for her. Room, sunset orange, a choice that made me slightly dizzy but filled her with joy. We bought second-hand furniture and made it feel like home with plants and art and the kind of lived-in chaos that comes from actually living somewhere, not just surviving there. My parents tried to reconcile once, about 3 months after everything fell apart. They showed up at my new apartment on a Saturday morning with flowers and apologies and explanations about how they'd been confused and manipulated by David. Emma answered the door before I could stop her. She looked at her grandparents for a long moment, then said, "I don't think we're family anymore," and quietly closed the door. I found her in her room afterward, coloring in a book of dragons and castles. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said, without looking up. "I just don't want to pretend anymore." And that was it. No drama, no tears, no lengthy explanations. Just the simple clarity of a child who'd learned that family is something you choose, not something you're stuck with. David made one last attempt at contact 6 months later, sending a letter through a lawyer claiming he wanted to rebuild his relationship with his daughter and that he'd learned from his mistakes. The letter went straight into the shredder. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. A year later, Emma and I were having breakfast in our sunny kitchen when she looked up from her cereal and said, "Mom, I'm glad we left." Yeah, I like our life now. It's ours." And she was right. Our life was ours, messy and imperfect, and sometimes financially precarious, but genuinely, completely ours. No one else was pulling the strings, making plans for our future without consulting us or treating us like pieces in someone else's game. Emma started calling Marcus Uncle Marcus, and he started showing up for school plays and soccer games like he'd been part of our family all along. Maybe that's what family actually is. Not the people you're born to, but the people who show up when everything falls apart and help you build something new. Last month, Emma asked me if I missed my parents. I thought about it for a while before answering. "I miss who I thought they were," I told her. "But I don't miss being afraid all the time that the people I loved were going to hurt me." She nodded like that made perfect sense. "Yeah, I like not being scared. Me too, kiddo. Me too." Looking back now, I realize that sometimes the most devastating betrayals are also the most liberating. My parents' betrayal forced me to stop depending on people who saw me as a burden and start building a life based on my own choices and values. Emma learned early that family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty, love, and showing up when it matters. She learned that she deserves to be protected, not used as a bargaining chip. She learned that her voice matters and that speaking truth, even when it's scary, is always the right choice. And I learned that I'm stronger than I ever imagined. Strong enough to walk away from people who don't deserve me. Strong enough to fight for what matters. Strong enough to build a new life from scratch when the old one turns out to be built on lies. The hardest lesson was also the most important. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who will hurt you the most. But that doesn't mean love itself is a lie. It just means you have to be more careful about who you trust with your heart. Here's what I want you to think about. When the people closest to you show you who they really are, do you have the courage to believe them the first time? And more importantly, do you have the strength to choose yourself and the people who truly love you, even when it means walking away from everything familiar? If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between loyalty to family and loyalty to yourself? Your story might help someone else who's facing an impossible choice. Remember, you're stronger than you think, and you deserve people in your life who see your worth and protect it, not exploit it. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one.